This is Alex.
This is Keys. Since the dawn of time, mankind has been fascinated by that which it does not understand, and at the forefront of this quest for knowledge is the supernatural and paranormal. Phenomenon that have flummoxed even the most worldly of scholars, both frighten and entice. But today, in the year 2023, and now also 2024, it turns out this quest took a bit longer than we were anticipating. Anyway, we seek to unlock all the secrets of the paranormal world. Or at least investigate all those secrets. Or at least some of those secrets. Okay, maybe just the ones based in a handful of locations a conveniently short drive away from our house, but the point is we will endeavour to answer the following questions nonetheless. What is so enticing about these strange phenomena? What sort of environments do they appear in? And do they, in any capacity, actually exist?
So what are we doing? We aim to answer these questions to the best of our ability. To do so, we will be visiting several locations that, according to locals, are either haunted or have experienced paranormal phenomenon. After researching each location, we will visit the site in person and record our findings. The following is a result of our investigation.
Where's it taking us to? Is it taking us cross country or back towards?
Cross country, actually.
Okay. So where did you put in Belmont?
Belmont Road, Bolton. The village of Belmont is a few miles north of Bolton. Belmont Road is part of the A675 and starts outside of Bolton, extends through Belmont Village, continuing off the High Street past Belmont Reservoir, through the countryside connecting to Bolton Road, which then leads to Abbey Village.
The main takeaway is that the road is an A road just north of Bolton and has apparently been host to a bunch of supernatural / paranormal sightings, I suppose you'd call it. So we're currently wiggling through back roads,
as you can
tell, because we're trying to pick up the start of Belmont Road so we can have a little look along the length of it in the car and see what we can see if we can pick up anything. Now it's sort of dusk, not dusk yet actually, the sun's not quite there, but it will be dusk soon, and a lot of the sightings seem to occur at night or in the evening, so we're probably not going to see anything just yet, but perhaps once it gets dark. You join us just by the side of Belmont Road, part of an A road just north of Bolton in the northwest of England, cutting through the lovely landscape here. And the reason we're here today is because there have been several reports of supernatural paranormal sightings along this stretch of road. To tell you a little bit more about that, I'm going to hand you over for the moment to my esteemed colleague Keys.
There have been multiple accounts of strange happenings, paranormal or not, That's what we're here to investigate. Some of these events are as simple as car crashes, and from those car crashes, lingering spirits reside.
It seems to be a tricky one. There have been multiple reports, various sightings of various ghosts, but they all seem to be very different. It seems rare that the same sighting crops up multiple times.
One of the spirits that haunts this road is supposed to be a family from the 20th century who were involved in a car crash, and allegedly the entire family died.
I believe, from what we looked at, you can still supposedly hear the noise of the ghostly car driving past. Probably not that one.
Instead of sounding like cars driving by, supposedly you're going to hear the screech of brakes and then the sounds of a car crash.
No one's ever cited anything, though. It doesn't appear to be a visual phenomenon.
And we can't find any reports that corroborate this story.
Another interesting sighting supposedly happened at a public house called the Wiltshire Arms, which is just a little way to the south towards Bolton itself. And one of the patrons, a friend of the landlord, was staying behind after the doors had been locked for a nice drink. Now, according to the eyewitness, the landlord had left the room temporarily for this or that, and the witness turned to the fireplace and happened to see an older woman sitting there. She smiled and seemed cordial, although didn't say anything, and he just assumed maybe another friend or family member of the landlord. Didn't think anything of it, carried on drinking. A little while later, though, he thought it was odd that they'd be sitting there after all the doors had been locked, and turned back, only to see that she had mysteriously vanished. A thorough search was conducted, but apparently no one was found, and all the doors were confirmed to be locked. Although I must say I'm not sure how much stock I put in this particular story. The fact that the witness was there after hours drinking in a pub implies that the witness was also there when the pub was open, presumably still drinking, and presumably, after a few drinks, was perhaps not the best and most reliable pair of eyes on site.
It's also important to note that this sighting was apparently in 1998, and there isn't really anyone to back that story up.
Yes, this is a recurring theme. It seems individuals have cited specific ghosts or specific events, but no one else has been able to confirm this by seeing the same thing. For example, there was another report that on the 20th of December specifically, you can see a Viking who appears to be in good spirits and enjoying merriment wandering down the road. It appears this is because the 20th of December is the first day of Yule, or Jule, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Viking winter festival.
I also thought I'd just point out that's the only positive ghost story that we have for Belmont Road.
Yes, it's interesting. A lot of ghost stories seem to have nasty things happening to people. I like the idea of just a Viking who isn't quite ready to go on to the next life and is just spreading some Yuletide cheer, or I suppose Juletide? I don't know what the equivalent is for a Viking winter festival, but he seems happy at least. There was also the story you looked into of the hanged highwayman. Could you tell us a little about that?
Yes, I can. So, the hanged highwayman, or the noosed highwayman, is apparently somebody who was accused of highway robbery, although we're not sure if he actually did rob anybody.
May have been a false conviction.
This ghostly apparition has been seen multiple times walking both northbound and southbound, apparently with no destination in mind, although I fail to see how you'd find out where he's going.
Seems a bit odd. It's not like you can stop and ask a ghost.
The most frightening thing about this apparition is that he supposedly has a noose around his neck, tight enough to make his eyes bulge out of his head.
He was hanged after all, as the story goes, so that would make sense.
Aside from not being able to find any other information on this, aside from some paranormal websites, we fail to see why he would be haunting this highway. This may have been the highway he was accused of holding people up, but he wouldn't have been hanged here.
No, and particularly if he was innocent, he wouldn't have any attachment to this section of highway at all. You'd think he'd be haunting the gallows, presumably where he was hung.
The final haunting story that we could find is in 2015, a ghost was caught on video. Or so some people believe. It's likely to have been a prank, but the video essentially showcases a white apparition shuffling towards the camera, and you can hear two men screaming in the background.
Again, many sources have stated that this could well be a man in a sheet or some sort of video trickery and a prank to drum up views online.
From the screenshot I saw, it was pretty blurred too, so kind of an easy pass.
It's not exactly phasmophobia, is it?
Is this the tunnel?
This is it.
3.3 kilometers. Turn left.
There we go.
We've just entered the tunnel, the Queensway Tunnel in Liverpool. The tunnel is just over 2 miles in length. It was constructed between 1925 and 1934. Reportedly, 17 men died during the construction of this tunnel, and at the time of construction, it was the longest road tunnel in the UK.
I think it may have been in the world at the time. I think it was certainly the longest underwater road tunnel until the 1950s, I believe.
Unsurprisingly, a point of pride for Liverpool.
Certainly at the time, yes, certainly at its opening. I believe, I can't remember which monarch it was, but I believe the king at the time opened it in 34, whoever that monarch would have been, whose name eludes me. It'll be up on the screen, I'm sure, at this point.
The tunnel consists of 4 lanes.
We are currently going, well, it runs roughly west to east, so we're currently westbound coming from the Liverpool side over to the Wirral at the moment.
There's also a lower deck under this road, which was built for ventilation.
Yes, it can also be used as a refuge, I believe, in case of emergency. This is the road deck we're currently driving on, so there is refuges underneath the deck for, as you say, ventilation, and I believe you're about to say additional ones were constructed in 2004 to provide additional safety refuge to bring the tunnel in line with high European safety standards.
We have a bit of haunted information. Firstly, I'm going to do a bit of juxtaposition here. Something that's not haunting the tunnel is the 17 men that were killed during construction. You'd assume that would be one of the things causing problems, but no. There's no reports, at least any that we could find, that suggest those people who died during the construction of this tunnel led to any hauntings, any sightings, nothing.
Can only assume they are at peace.
There have been reports, however, of a female hitchhiker trying to thumb a lift in the tunnel. In the 1960s, a woman riding as a pillion passenger on a motorbike fell off whilst travelling through the tunnel and died from the injuries. And this could be the ghost that has reportedly been seen multiple times. Apparently she stands on the road itself with her thumb out, seemingly trying to flag down a lift.
If there's reports of her trying to hitchhike, it would make sense that perhaps she is the ghost of the individual who died on the motorbike. If she fell off a bike in the tunnel, maybe she's trying to hitch a lift out of it.
I wonder if anyone's tried to give her a lift.
I don't know. It's difficult to stop in the middle of the tunnel because it is a dual carriageway.
Yeah.
Maybe that's how she should be put at rest. Maybe.
But she can't because it's a dual carriage.
She can't.
You're saying?
Because traffic rules exist. That's got to be a terrible thing for a ghost.
I am going to point out that there are multiple sources talking about this ghost. However, there's a bit of discrepancy on the effect of her being there. Some sources say that cars have swerved. Some reports are saying there are crashes, though.
Yes, I haven't found any news reports or anything regarding crashes that were linked directly to a ghost sighting. So it's hard to verify that, to be honest. It's hard to verify if crashes have occurred as a direct result of ghosts in the road.
I don't believe this happened to us, because I didn't see any visualizations of past or future. But apparently, driving through the Queensway Tunnel may lead to a time slip, which is where you briefly see a vision of the future or the past. As you can expect, information on this was near enough impossible to find, and I don't think we found any blog posts as of this point.
I mean, I don't think we're in the future or the past. It looks the same to me. So I'm going to chalk that one up as quite implausible.
I'm going to check the time as well. It's still April 27th, Thursday, about 4:40 p.m.
I'm still driving my car and not a ye old timey car, so I'm going to assume we're fine.
In the first year of excavation, a lost village, possibly medieval, with 4-foot doorways, was discovered.
From what I read, it came down to money. They were either unwilling or unable to stop construction long enough for archaeologists to be brought in, so they just decided, well, we'll go through it.
Another spectral apparition supposedly seen in the tunnel is a vintage police car, which can be seen in the early hours of the morning before vanishing into thin air. Again, no video documentation of this, but it has been referenced in one or two articles.
I feel like I'm a little bit skeptical of that one as well. I feel like a vintage police car, is that just someone going to a classic car rally early in the morning? I don't know what early hours of the morning means. Is it someone coming home from somewhere? Is it someone, I don't know, it feels a bit of a strange thing that could be explained by other means, but I don't know, perhaps there is something to it, you never know.
I would also increase the amount of doubt based on it being the early hours of the morning. You could assume one would be tired around that time, or the lighting wouldn't be so great, so you might not see what you think you're seeing.
Or intoxicated, if you are hopefully the passenger in a car, potentially in the early morning. A designated driver who is tired, other passengers who may be in the throes of intoxication.
Then of course there is the last potential of, it's just a prank, bro.
That does seem to be a possibility with a lot of these. It's difficult to determine what is a genuine report from someone who, well, at least they believed what they saw, and someone who just wants a bit of attention. Like us. Right. I am going to now find us directions to Bidston Hill. Hello. We are currently walking through Bidston Hill. This is an area of land, approximately 100 acres, in Merseyside, on the Wirral side of the River Mersey, on the Wirral Peninsula, to the west of the river. Now, Bidston Hill is interesting for a number of reasons. There are several buildings here that could be of interest to us and could potentially be haunted. Now, in terms of the buildings here, one of the most famous is the windmill. I believe it used to be used for producing grain of some sort, something farming related, but it was built in the late 18th century after the previous mill burnt down in 1791. Now, in addition to the windmill, there is also an observatory present, not currently used anymore, I don't believe, but it was created back in 1866 to, well, as an observatory, study various astronomical things, but has also been used in conjunction with work on the time and tide.
This is a very windy day at Bidston Windmill. There are a few ghostly things in Bidston in general, Bidston Hill. One of them is supposedly a spirit, and this spirit in particular is just an outline, the outline of a man. We don't have much to go on here, but supposedly he was murdered in the 19th century. The outline of a man is not the only mysterious thing to happen near the windmill on Bidston Hill. A supposed Satanist and murderer by the name of Richard Tilley is buried amongst these grounds. Where he's buried, we're not quite sure. But it's said, at night, or maybe possibly during the day, when there is moon coverage, a zombie-like form of Richard Tilley will rise from the grave and attack young ladies.
So supposedly, the area around Bidston Hill was also used as a meeting point for various clubs, cults, this and that. There's reports of Satanists and people doing witchcraft and gathering here in the field or in the woods at night. But to me, that just sounds like a bunch of kids getting together and having fun. I mean, there are things like Wiccan practices that were demonized back in the day as, oh, it's all evil, but it just sounds to me like a lot of those are quite harmless, and it's probably just a bunch of people. It's a convenient place to meet.
There are instances in where this is probably not the most wholesome meeting grounds, though.
No.
It has been said that sometimes cultists or cult groups will gather here.
Bidston Observatory.
So we've approached the observatory, or what was once the observatory, and we've realised it's not as dilapidated as we thought it was. Down there are some windows where I won't film for privacy reasons. There are some people seemingly working, and there's also electronics hooked up to the building so it can light up. We're not quite sure what it's used for yet. We may do some research into that, but it's nice to see that a supposedly haunted or haunted adjacent location is still being used to this day.
This is Bidston Observatory. It was built in 1866 and has been used for a number of purposes over the years. Primarily, of course, astronomy. You may be able to see the domes and antenna on the roof. However, as well as looking up into the night sky, it's also been used for research down here on Earth, primarily into time and the tide. In fact, regarding its work on timekeeping, apparently the building was electronically linked at one point to a gun that would fire near the River Mersey at 1 p.m. every day as a timekeeping device. Bidston Hill is also known to be the source of several UFO sightings. In 2012, a man named Mike Dunn claimed to have seen a UFO hovering over several nearby houses, and even claimed to have taken a photograph of it.
St Mary's Church, nicknamed Cold Christmas Church, is located near a village called Thundridge in southern England. Evidence of the church's existence goes far back as 1086, although we're not quite certain when it was actually built. In the mid-19th century, the main body of the church was demolished, and we also believe the spire on top of the remaining tower was taken with it. Medieval churches are normally built on an east to west alignment. However, this one was rumoured to be built north to south. This is a pretty important rule they're breaking for the time. However, we're not quite sure that it is built north to south, and here's why.
The reason you don't build a church on a north to south alignment is that supposedly that is associated with the devil, with evil. You have to build it east to west. This church is rumoured to be built north to south, as Keys has just said. However, I'm not so sure. As we look at it, we can see that the doors are on, well, not the side facing me, that side and that side. There's two of them. That implies that one of those doors led to, well, when it was still a thing, the rest of the church, the congregation, before it was demolished, and the other door would presumably be the external door to get into the church. So the fact that the doors are on those two sides implies that the church was built along that axis, which is east to west. Or rather, that's west, that's east. We know because we came in from the west, from that direction, over the A10 dual carriageway to get here. So that suggests the church is in fact built on the right axis, on the right alignment. I admit, I'm not an expert in construction or churches or geography. And this is anecdotal, but we did see one comment online that said that the church is in fact built correctly east to west. And the reason people think it's north to south is because of the nearby River Rib, which does flow north to south, but for a small section near the church, it actually turns and is flowing east to west. So if people use the river as a landmark and the church's orientation to the river, they might be misinterpreting which direction things are. They might have got it 90 degrees out of sync with themselves. So maybe the church is okay and there's no devils or demons around here.
Further evidence to support that the church was actually built east to west is the fact that there's a graveyard surrounding it on three sides. We have a grave there, graves here, graves there, and even graves on that side. We have yet to see any evidence of any graves being on that side, which I believe is west.
Today, all that remains of the church is this section of the tower and the graveyard surrounding it. In fact, before we came here today, we did some research online and found that the local authority has been dissuading people from coming to the church. As you can see, you are no longer able to get inside, and now that we're here, we see that the entire structure has been fenced off. There are multiple signs warning of the fact that the structure is dangerous, there could be falling masonry, it's a bit unstable, so you can see for safety reasons why they've done this. And it also seems that the local police have been keeping some of the youths away. Apparently at one point this was a bit of a rite of passage for local youngsters to come to the church at night or at Halloween and see if they could see anything spooky. But again, that contributed to some of the wear and tear and was a bit dangerous, so it seems that's all been mostly dissuaded, which may contribute to the fact that there haven't really been any recent reports of hauntings or sightings here. In fact, the sign that is warning of falling masonry is itself in danger of falling.
Today, we are being told to wait until repairs can be funded and organised. A different story for the part of the church that's no longer here. In the 19th century, the large majority of the church was demolished because it was deemed too unsafe rather than repairable. However, a rumour goes that witches and devil worshippers congregated around these areas because of the north and south alignment, although we're not sure that's the case anymore. So that's potentially the real reason why it was taken down. But Alex, surely we're not just here because people thought the church was built the wrong way?
That's true, we're not. We're here because there have been several reports of paranormal sightings and encounters in the graveyard and the surrounding area. For example, several people have reported hearing moaning, and it's theorised that these could be the moans of children who died, sadly, during the particularly cold winters and were buried in the graveyard several hundred years ago. That's actually why the church gets its name Cold Christmas from.
Perhaps related, a woman in 1978 reported walking towards this church and being met by an army of ghosts who walked towards and then marched straight through her. Could this have been the children, the tens of children who died that fateful Christmas?
Also, when I was researching the church before coming here, I came across an article written by the psychic Andy Chaplin. He wrote an article for a website called Spooky Isle, and in it he recounts a story where he was speaking to a local woman who says that she saw a ghostly encounter. She was nearby the church with some friends of hers, I believe, and they saw an old vintage 1920s style car on the road with two people in the front staring blankly ahead and driving towards the church. Andy himself says that he didn't encounter anything unusual or paranormal when he visited here, and to be honest, a report of an old car driving along a road is unusual but doesn't automatically scream ghost to me. You know, I'm having a thought.
Yeah?
While we were there, at the church, this is, we noticed a lot of wildlife, right?
Yep.
A lot of noises, a lot of birds. At one point, we were actually startled by a bird in a tree flapping about.
There were cows and sheep as well.
Exactly. So I'm thinking, what if, you're here on your own at night, it's spooky, and you hear a sound of something rustling in the undergrowth, or you hear a call of a fox or some sort of wildlife in the distance, and you mistake it for a ghost. That seems to be a sort of running theme we're getting with a few of these places, and I think that may be the reason for at least several of the less dramatic encounters that people have had at the church. I mean, I'm not suggesting that these animals are responsible for a ghost appearing in front of someone or a car on the road, but
in this case, you're thinking these noises might be confused for the moans of dead children.
I think stranger things have happened. I think your mind can play tricks on you if it's dark and it's spooky.
And if you're looking for ghosts and trying to hear out for them, what you seek is what you find.
Yep.
Hey Alex, how are you doing?
Hello Keys, good to see you. I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I was just thinking about our project. It's taken us a few years to get to this point, but I think we're finally ready to talk about the conclusion. Do you remember the first 3 questions we asked at the beginning of the video?
Yes, I do indeed. I've had some time to think about them, and I think I've got my answers ready, if you'd like to ask away.
Well, if you're ready, can you tell me, what is so enticing about these strange phenomenon?
Well, for me, I think that's the easiest one to answer, to be honest. And I think it just comes down to the mystery of it. I think it's a very human thing for us to want to get out there and explore and understand things that we don't, and contend with things that we've never experienced before, and we don't really understand how they work or if they even exist, but we want to find answers. We always want to find answers to these questions, particularly if it's something that entices us and potentially scares us to the point that something supernatural can. There's a certain element of, well, fear there, that it's exciting, gets the blood flowing. And I think that's just human nature. I think for as long as we exist on this planet, we're going to want answers. We're going to want to explore and push the boundaries. So at the end of the day, I think we can just chalk that up to our nature as humans.
You know, I think you're right. I mean, we started this whole thing because of our curiosity, right? Speaking of curiosity, I'm curious about something else. Do you think there's anything linking the places we visited together? Like, was there any rhyme or reason to where ghosts supposedly appeared?
That might be a little more difficult to answer. I certainly think there are through lines, certain commonality between the locations we visited. They all tended to be fairly secluded, tended to be locations people visited maybe at obscure or unusual times or odd hours of the day. Places where not a lot of people are, not a lot of people frequent, although not always. There was that tunnel we looked at that obviously is quite busy because it's a road, but even in that case, it's not a location that lends itself to a lot of exploration. You can't really stop there, get out and have a look around. So even if it's a superficially busy place, they tend to be locations that are not opening themselves up for a lot of scrutiny, shall we say. I think it's fairly safe to say, and I think a lot of people would agree with me, that you're unlikely to find a ghost in a Starbucks during a lunch rush, for example. They're going to be places that are off the beaten track, that are not often frequented. And I think maybe that's it. Maybe ghosts are solitary, maybe supernatural beings or spirits. Maybe they don't want to be observed or scrutinized to the degree that we would like. And yeah, I think the other thing to think of is that sorry, for a second I thought I saw something behind you in your camera. I think we've been talking about ghosts too much and my mind is playing tricks on me. Anyway, what I was saying is that I think that other people who have hunted ghosts or claim to have some experience with the supernatural would probably agree that these are locations that are basically off the beaten track. And unless, of course, they are a location that maybe the ghost died in, or maybe some sort of event happened, but even then, they tend to be fairly secluded. I think it's fairly safe to say that these are solitary beings, if they exist at all.
You know, you mentioned other ghost hunters. And I just remembered that's another reason why we started this. In those videos where people explore an abandoned hospital or some sort of dark crevice or some haunted woods, they always give these over-the-top reactions, screaming at darkness, running away from nothing. Do they actually see anything? Did we see anything? Do ghosts, in any capacity, actually exist?
Well, that's what it comes down to at the end of the day, isn't it? I think it's very easy to be caught up in the excitement of it, and I don't want to disparage anyone who believes they have seen something of the supernatural. It's entirely possible they did. I am only one person with my own experiences to draw on. But the fact is, I've got to be honest, and I appreciate this may come as something of a disappointment. I remain unconvinced that supernatural things exist, or at least exist in the way that we're hunting for them. I was a bit unsure coming into this, but I was willing to be proven wrong, but I haven't been. Maybe this is a problem with me. Maybe I'm too rooted in logic, and I only believe the evidence of my eyes and my ears and what I can see and feel. Maybe I'm too rooted in that scientific mindset, but I just have not seen any evidence of anything conclusive that says that any of the locations we've been to, at least, have anything supernatural about them at all. So I'm unconvinced. I'm still skeptical, and I think I'm going to remain skeptical for a little while at least. We've certainly been to some interesting places, but nothing that shows any evidence of the otherworldly. And anyway, I think at the end of the day, that's just how I feel about it. I'm sorry, but no, I'm skeptical. Keys?
Yeah?
Is there something behind...
There are a lot of cars
What the
coming
fuck
by.
is happening?
God, it's a convoy.
The problem is they've all got right of way.
Yeah.
So we're fucked, basically. Pardon my language. This can go in the outtakes. There are a lot of cars behind me, and frankly, they're going to wait, because there is a camera. If the camera could see what I'm seeing, there is nothing I can do about it.
It
There
just
is
keeps coming.
physically nothing I can do about it.
This is horrendous. 2 lanes going the other way, which is west or east. I don't have a compass currently. I can't tell you.
And a lot of the sightings seem to occur at night or in the evening, so probably not going to see anything. Oh, hello. I've decided to become a passive ghost hunter. I'm just going to sit here and wait for them to come to me. Watch the thrilling video as Alex pays a toll booth.
This is prime content right here.
Edit out my pin if you can see it.
I shall.
Walking towards the church and being met by an army of ghosts who march straight towards, and then... Fuck's sake.
That's her.
She's calling me.
She's saying hello, yes.
I'm gonna
claim about all the ghosts we saw that we just didn't catch on camera. Oh, a ghost!
Oh, if only
my
the
God.
GoPro was pointing out the window. There's 12 over there, stood waiting for the bus.
You've missed it. Oh.
The thing about the observatory is that it's a large building in front of us.
If you do happen to time travel when you go through the Queensway Tunnel, let us know.
Please write to us at help, I'm in 1983.
Is it, what is it, Bidston? Bidston windmill, 19th century, the outline of a man supposedly murdered. This could be the aforementioned ghost. We're now out of the tunnel.
You'd think he'd be haunting the gallows, presumably where he was hung. Hanged, hung. Tell us in the comments whether it's hanged or hung.
We're just on the other side of the windmill.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to point out, it's annoying how a lot of these places that are supposedly haunted are boarded up. I mean, that's part of the mystery, right? That's probably why
Yes.
people are thinking, hey, we can't explain it. We can't get inside to look and let people know that there's nothing there, or if there is.
I mean, there's a number of reasons I could imagine. I would imagine health and safety,
Oh, yeah.
because this mill is no spring chicken. It is a bit old. And also, I presume it's probably to dissuade, well, people like us who are trying to search for the paranormal and supernatural and may well be climbing all over it and damaging things and getting into trouble. And
This makes sense. I would
Causing it to
fully
be a
go in
faff.
there if there weren't some
You
sort
would.
of iron door in the way.
you would be hanging off the blades and swinging from them, I can imagine.
I mean, now you say it.
Okay,
It's not too far to...
Okay, that's no, goodbye.